It's time to break down the facts about what is happening at the Peel District School Board. They are now, of course, in damage control, but the numbers tell their own story here. This is about fiscal responsibility, accountability, and priorities. On Sunday, Trustee Jill Promley posted on social that PDSB, and I quote, is in strong financial position, and that she is proud of the work they do at the PDSB. For the record, the Peel District School Board is the most violent school board in the province, according to the most recent data, but I'll leave that there. What is interesting that just days ago, another Peel trustee, Kathy McDonald, told media outlet The Pointer, and I quote, "The minister has raised valid concerns and marching orders. We will now have to work together to meet his demands or face the consequences. It's that simple." Two messages, same school board, very different realities. And what is really important here, at the same time this chaos was about to unfold, no trustees publicly took a stand, and that is a matter of fact. This despite unions stating on the record that the board moved forward with these cuts without trustee input, and that they did not follow the standard democratic process. So where were the trustees? The democratically elected voice of the community. There was no public statement in opposition. No public advocacy for students, no public stand for staff. Their actions, or lack thereof, speaks for itself. What's especially troubling is that more than a week after the layoffs were announced, and while trustees remained publicly silent, some were photographed here at a conference in Toronto. One even received an award. I'm at a loss for words here. At a time like this, many would reasonably expect leadership to be focused on resolving the crisis at the Peel District School Board, not attending events. There was going to be reorganization of classes. That too is a fact. Numerous PDSB educators reached out to me, including this administrator, who wrote, and I quote, "The board is in panic mode. I hardly slept last night worrying about how I'm going to operationalize this. It's unbelievable and going to be awful." It is unbelievable and going to be awful. The front lines were in crisis, and yet senior board leadership, the chair, and some trustees were at a two-day conference, the optics suggesting business as usual, and that contrast says everything. It also raises fair questions about how much public money was spent on conference attendance, too. And we have to look at the facts. The president of OPSU 2100, representing nearly 5,000 EAs and ECEs, said in the same interview mentioned moments ago, and I quote, "We've seen an increase in middle and upper management positions, but they cut educational assistance and early childhood education supports, so students are not actually being supervised anymore." Again, that's from a union president. She also stated that at the same time, the board added 7 new senior leadership roles. Now, we're still waiting to confirm the salaries for those appointments, but they will easily surpass over $700,000. Easily. So let's pick it up from there. Let's follow the money here at the Peel District School Board. There are cuts in classrooms on the front lines, yet according to PDSB's own 2023-24 budget document, the HR, Partnerships, and Equity Department alone costs $13.5 million a year. It has 104 full-time positions across 9 divisions, each with management layers. That scale is not the norm for a public school board. When administrative departments grow this large, it raises legitimate questions about financial oversight and cost discipline. Overspending at the top is nothing to be proud of. It reflects misplaced priorities and exposes a system that is out of touch with the front lines. Let's dig a little deeper and look at the Executive Officer HR Partnership and Equity role. In 2020, this individual earned about $125,000. After that, the role was elevated to Executive Officer, and an almost 25% salary increase was given. And then, the year after that, another raise, almost 22%. By 2024, that same individual was earning over $206,000. This according to the publicly available OntarioSunshineList.com. That's an increase of roughly $80,000 in 4 years. Why is that? That, too, a fair question. Why is a senior leadership getting an $80,000 raise? especially when frontline staff are being cut and families are being told there isn't enough money. Parents and taxpayers need to know this. We all need to ask, if funding is increased, will it reach the classroom? Another example, the assistant controller, finance. This individual earned just over $198,000 in 2024, receiving a 29% increase in 1 year. And for the record, this role is not covered by Bill 124 retroactive resolutions. Now, comparable private sector roles would often range between $90,000 and $130,000 a year. So why is a public school finance executive nearing $200,000? And we must remember, this does not include benefits or pensions, and these are not one-offs. Look, here's another. The PDSB assistant controller in maintenance services, also earning almost $198,000 after receiving a 28% raise. Again, this is well above private sector comparables. Fiscal responsibility means spending where it truly helps students, managing overhead, and being accountable for outcomes. The numbers I've just shared with you make one thing clear. This system is protecting itself, not the classroom. And sadly, there is evidence that shows overspending is an issue at many boards. These are just the most obvious ones. Families and taxpayers have a right to know where education dollars are going, especially when the front lines and our children's classrooms are being impacted. 104 full-time HR staffers, costing over $13 million. Imagine the difference even half of that would have in our classrooms. In my view, that is not a strong financial position. It is egregiously wasteful. At the end of the day, more funding only helps if it reaches the front lines, and that too, I believe, is a fact. These salaries and spending patterns must be reviewed. Education reform must include real financial oversight, transparent governance, and accountability. That's how we put students first. I'll have additional updates very soon. For the Whole Schools Accountable Parent Network, I'm Anwar Knight. Thanks for watching.